You're listening to the podcast Women Ending War. I'm your co-host, Elana Stockman, a Jewish Israeli-American, along with my co-hosts Eva Dalak and Dr. Fakhira Haloun, Palestinian citizens of Israel. Together, we are activating peace. Welcome.
مرحبا إلانا.
مرحبتين فاخرة. So nice to see you.
وأنا كمان أنا كتير سعيدة إنه إحنا اليوم موجودين بلقاء مع أميرة ومع رنا. I am so delighted for this opportunity to meet today two amazing women. مرحبا رنا. مرحبا أميرة. Hello Rana and Ameera, and we are today at the office of Combatants for Peace. Rana is the co-director of Combatants for Peace, and Ameera is the co-director of Tomorrow Women. And we are delighted today to talk about your journey as a Palestinian woman who joined the peacebuilding field, and to talk about how this joining of this field impacted the work of the peacebuilding, and also what's the challenges that you are facing as women, as institutions working to end the occupation and for peacebuilding in light of all that de-escalation that's happening also after the 7th of October. So we are looking forward to talk with you both. This is really very important interview for us, Elana. We have been waiting for that to have interview with Palestinian women this time, and not just inside Israel. No?
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. It's not so simple. It's not such a simple thing to do. I wish it were simpler. I mean, I wish that we were just, neighbors and not on the opposite side of fences constructed arbitrarily. So I'm glad to be here, and I'm really glad to be speaking with you today.
Good to have you.
Thank you. Rana, I want you to tell us a little bit how you joined all this field for peacebuilding, ending the occupation, and to tell us a little bit about Combatants for Peace and what's the main goal of Combatants for Peace. And after that, we will hear also from Ameera.
Okay. So Combatants for Peace is a grassroots movement of Palestinians and Israelis working together to end the occupation. The movement was founded back in 2006 by former combatants who were active previously in the violence cycle. They were combatants in the Israeli army, Palestinian freedom fighters, who both used violence as a mean to resist the occupation and spend time in Israeli jails. And they both went through a transformation journey, realizing that violence only begets more violence, revenge also fuels more revenge. And they realized that we need to break that cycle of violence. And they started meeting secretly in order to build the trust between them, the understanding, share their personal stories, and that led to the founding of the movement Combatants for Peace. And I've joined the movement for about 4 years now, and I don't have the same background as our founders, but the movement is today more open to everyone who believes in the values of nonviolence and our shared humanity. So we have today ex-combatants, we have refuseniks, nonviolent activists, we have women, we have young people joining the movement, so it's more inclusive.
Yeah. It's very interesting because Combatants for Peace, as somebody who has been working in the field of peacebuilding for a long time, it's a senior organization, and it's also shaping, I guess, in a certain way, all the field of peacebuilding, which approaches needed to be in the peacebuilding, and also it's important message for Palestinians and Israelis that like former fighters decided that this is not the way. This is not the way for solving the conflict between us, and non-violent should be part of our approach, and other approaches of action and dialogue. We will talk about it. So thank you so much. Ameera, you are also bringing another element of engaging women in peacebuilding. So can you tell us how you got into this field as well, and tell us a little bit about Tomorrow Women and the goal?
Thank you, Fakhira, and thank you, Elana, for this opportunity to bring Palestinian voices to speak. And in this podcast, I hope this podcast will reach worldwide. Joining Tomorrow's Women is the story of my life. As I joined when I was 17 years old, I heard about Tomorrow's Women, which back then it was called Creativity for Peace. I heard that there is this organization bringing Palestinian and Israeli young girls to the state, to New Mexico, to a very peaceful place, so they can talk, they can meet, they can have art. Back then, to be honest with you, when I was 17, I joined in the year of 2005. And saying 2005, it's understood, it's just after the second Intifada. Growing up as a child, I was born on the first Intifada, and I was growing up during the second Intifada, which means I never had a normal childhood. Even the basic rights as going to the school was forbidden for us, as there was a lot of curfew on my village near Jenin. The minute I heard there is this opportunity, I said this is my chance to explore the world, to have my freedom of movement. I wasn't caring about meeting the Israeli that much. Joining Tomorrow's Women on the age of 17 and giving me this safe space to share my story, to share my pain, to tell the other side what does it mean to live under occupation, to live in the West Bank, everything, to share all my experiences, give me this strength in my voice, believe in myself that this is the right way, that this is the way that will have impact on the other side. Besides that, I also learned how to listen, because our core methodology in Tomorrow's Women is based on compassionate listening and authentic speaking, beside art and dialogue, of course. So this is, in short, my journey with Tomorrow's Women, and I always saying I joined once and I never left. Because Tomorrow's Women, we are unique, not because only I am part of it, because they don't believe in a single meeting, in a single summer camp. They believe on the follow-up. That's why I came back from the camp in Santa Fe, and we continue to meet. We continue to invest in this relationship was built in the camp. And slowly, step by step, we want to reach to the actions, because dialogue is not enough. We need to reach to the action. And that's why maybe later in the interview, I will say more about our programs and how we are achieving this. But for my personal process experience, I wanted more. I joined all the workshops, all the seminars. I learned all the skills that they offered us, starting from public speaking, talking about gender issue, UN Resolution 1325, which each workshop I learned more and more. And not just teaching, also giving you the platform to practice these skills. I went to public speaking tours. I was senior young leader the year after my joining in 2005. Later, I became the dialogue facilitator. All these skills I learned through my journey. And today, as you introduced me, I am the Palestinian director in Tomorrow's Women.
So Tomorrow's, can I just clarify?
Yeah.
Tomorrow's Women, it's Palestinian and Israeli women, girls who go to camps together in America, or...
Yeah, let me now give you a quick history. This was only my history. Tomorrow's Women was founded in 2003. It was a dream of the co-founder to bring Palestinian and Israeli young girls, the age of 15 to 17, to New Mexico, Santa Fe, to give them this sense of, first of all, the nature is so peaceful there. She offered us her place. Her dream is to give these girls the chance to meet away from the conflict, away from the checkpoints, away from everything, from the political leaders that insist to keep us apart. And this became true in 2003 when we had the first camp. by the way, the first camp, 2003, 2004, 2005, we had girls from Gaza. But unfortunately, we stopped the year of 2006 because of the siege that the Gazans live till today. So this was... Yeah.
Before 2005, it was easier for people to get out of Gaza than after 2005?
Definitely.
Yes.
I mean, this is like really important to
Yes.
because most people don't even understand this.
Okay.
And, you know, they think, oh, 2005, Israelis left, so...
So for me, Ameera, I want just to emphasize a few things that you said, you talked about them, and it's good to highlight them because you said it was a platform for you to share your voice as a Palestinian woman, to share about how is your life under the occupation, and also to meet the other side, this is very important as part of empowering women to provide this space that you can be free, you bring your voice freely. And at the same time, you also talked about that you equip women with knowledge about 1325, about advocacy, so you equip them with leadership. Knowledge and skills so they can involve in leadership things. But you also mentioned something, but we'll return back to it, so that dialogue is not enough. There is a need also for action. And I guess we will talk with Rana also about this, because this is one of the main argument for Palestinians who are working in the peacebuilding field with Israelis, that they don't want to do dialogue, because dialogue do not really change the reality under the occupation. They want to see Palestinian and Israeli joining together to resist the occupation and to take action to resist it, and also to change the structural violence. So this is something that we may return back to it, because this is very important, request by the Palestinians who are involved in peace building. Rana, I will go for you, because you know this organization, mainly Combatants for Peace, was a male organization, and for a long time. So how is that you join as a female this organization? What was the impact of the direction of the organization, the culture of the organization, the attitude? What's the impact that you brought, and also to attract maybe other Palestinian women to be involved in peace building? How's your entry to this organization had an impact? If you want to share with us a little
Sure.
bit.
So, as you mentioned, when I joined Combatants for Peace was more a male-dominant organization, and my involvement was actually both a challenge and an opportunity for positive change. Mm-hmm. And mostly what I realized when joining in the beginning, that for us women, we have different experiences, and being involved in the beginning, I realized that most of the conversations, the perspectives, are always taken or has been shaped through their own experiences as men. And that's what we brought as different, is the voices of women, and also changing the direction through having more space for more women to join, because right now we don't only focus about ending the conflict and ending the violence, but also creating a sustainable long peace. And that needs also the involvement of women voices and more inclusivity, and that's what has been changed. And I think for women, because we are affected by the conflict in different ways, both as victims and also as agents of peace. And that's what we bring to the table, is more involvement in the conflict resolution, to the peace processes, and I felt that was missing, and that what was really needed. And right now our work is stronger and more effective, and the impact is more powerful.
Rana, can you give us example about some actions that you weren't taking, but now you are taking with the engagement of women, which making powerful impact? Some activities or something. And I know that you do actions, and what you said, when women is involved, women bring the needs of the woman. There are other needs of women under the occupation, out of the conflict, that you want to bring it in order to build strategies for peace.
Yeah, so we continue to do our own field action. That's the main focus of the movement. We're based on activism, being on the ground the whole time, supporting the communities that are affected by settler violence, military violence, supporting the Bedouin communities, especially in Area C, creating solidarity campaigns also with the farmers, especially right now in the olive harvest season, escorting the shepherds as they graze their sheep in these areas. Also, like creating the non-violent protests, demonstrations throughout the last year and even before October 7th. And the involvement of women that I have noticed have increased. And we even in the last year, we had our protests that were women-led, providing that space for women to actually be in the front lines of these protests and creating like circles that protect the women inside, but like for women to be in the front, holding candles, bringing poetry, bringing different slogans and different speeches toward as we confront the Israeli military. So that also have been changed a little bit in the last year. And within the movement, we have so many women now in leading positions, especially our main programs like our memorial ceremony, our Nakba remembrance ceremony, our educational programs. They were all women-led for the last few years.
Wow, you have a lot of important activities that you are doing, and we are not like focusing on them, like the going to protect Palestinian farmers during the olive harvest from settler violence. This is very important, and you are like one of the organizations that go in the field, like Palestinian and Israeli together go do actions. And also you do the Memorial Day.
Yes.
This is one of the famous activities.
One of the biggest peace events. It will be like this year. It will be the 20th year that we will hold this ceremony together jointly.
Can you just say a little bit about it? What is it? Just this ceremony, because it's gather most of the Palestinian and Israeli organizations that are involved in peace building in one event. It's one of the most important, I guess, events for the peace building field in Israel, Palestine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very significant, especially it was like this last year after October 7th, because for us Memorial Day, it's an opportunity to change the narrative and the concept of victimhood and to change the vision towards the future. And actually Memorial Day is a sacred day in Israel, usually to remember the victims that are fallen from the conflict, Israeli victims. But in Combatants for Peace, we do it in an alternative way. And we remember all the victims of the conflict, Palestinians and Israelis. So we bring the voices of bereaved families, sharing about their loss and their request for a better future for the whole region, for both sides. So it's important to have this platform to change to change the narrative and to bring a different voice to end the conflict, to end the violence, to stop the bloodshed. And that's the reason that we come together, and to feel also the sorrow of the other, the pain of the other, and our shared humanity. That's the most important.
You know, I've been going to these events for probably, 5 years. I've been going to the joint memorial event. And each year it gets bigger and bigger. Except for this year, they didn't have one in one space. It was in people's houses. You know,
we had lots of screenings.
So I screened it in my house.
Interesting.
And I had a few people in my house, in the screening, that have never been to one before. It's sort of hard to talk about this in Israeli society because, like what you said, you know, Memorial Day is, you know, sacred. Yeah. And so the idea of you're having a Memorial Day with the enemy, you know, like how can that be, you know? And so each year, you know, I'm always just announcing it. Like this year, especially, I announced it on social media and stuff. I announced it in my community. I invited lots of people, and each of those conversations, if it's with people who've never been to it or even never heard about it, it always is very confronting at first, because it confronts head on the core of the narrative and suggests, hang on a second, maybe what we've been taught about so-called enemy is not what you think it was. And it breaks open. I mean, it's not surprising to me that each year it grows and grows, because you leave there changed, you know.
Yeah, it's very inspiring, very powerful event, and it's very meaningful.
Yeah.
And the amount of tears that you see in such an event, it's really moving and very emotional for me as well.
It's for me, it's bringing the enemy into your living room, because you hear about the suffering of the Palestinians, about the bereaved family, and also you hear about the suffering of the Israelis. So you put the enemy into your consciousness through this event, and you see that this conflict and the occupation, we both suffer. Both people are suffering. Right. There's an argument who suffers more, but both people are suffering, and you are bringing a message that there is another way. Yes. Okay, you say this is the message. There is another way, rather than killing and suffering. Right. And this is very important message.
I would add also that it's about humanizing the other.
Mm-hmm. Ameera, you shared that you are working also with the young girls from Gaza. Can you share a little bit with us about the kind of work that you do, and how this work was impacted also after the genocidal war on Gaza?
So, as you mentioned, Fakhira, we are one of the few organizations that recognize the reality, the harsh reality in Gaza, and the siege that they are living in. I wanted to go to Gaza. People in Gaza wanted to come to the West Bank, but we are not allowed because of the Israeli occupation, the Israeli regulation on Gaza. So we said in Tomorrow's Woman, are not going to stop us. So we launched our program, which we called Gaza Girls Connecting Beyond Borders.
Beautiful, connecting beyond borders. That the borders will not stop us.
Yes,
to connect.
Yeah. So since 2019, we have this, of course, virtual program where we give the opportunity for Palestinians from different areas, Gaza, West Bank, Jerusalem, Palestinians living in Israel, to meet, to get to know each other. We create for them this safe space so they will share. Very simple, how is your daily routine look like? And they will realize by sharing their story that each one of us, her life is affected by the reality we are live under occupation. The majority of effect or the impact, of course, happening now in Gaza during this ongoing genocide. Because of this war, we stop our program in Gaza, unfortunately, and we hope that the war will end soon, hopefully today, and we will continue our work in Gaza, because people in Gaza deserve the best. They deserve all the opportunity. I never met serious girls, responsible women that they want to learn, and they are always on time, even if it's in Zoom. So now, after October 7 and during this war, we shift our focus to humanitarian aid campaign. So we were able to help the women, our alumni, with some food basket, with some cash money. And the most important, when I reach out to them and ask them, what do you want? They said, we want our voices to be heard. So from these words, we decided to continue our project. We had it before the war, a project called Where Do I Live? So they shared their personal story, but this time they shared how it is to live ongoing genocide. So they shared how it affected them as a woman, as a mother, living in Gaza. And we took these stories and we advocated for them in the US in our public speaking tour. So if they are physically couldn't leave Gaza, their voices left, and their voices were heard in our public speaking. And of course, we shared it also online. So this is our response to the war in Gaza.
It's very painful, like, to speak about these things in the context of ethnic cleansing, genocide, war. on Gaza and the displacement, the destruction, the killing. I mean, to think about it, it's hard to speak about it just like very briefly, and
also so important, you know, that work of getting the voices out.
Yes.
You know, I actually just saw recently on social media also there's a campaign, I don't know if it's connected to you, but there's a campaign of last words of people from Gaza. People, did you see that? The last, and it's just
heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking.
It's hard.
You know, it's
and it's shaking for the humanity, because how we are, all of us watching live a genocide happening, and we are still like we are watching, and maybe a lot of people around the world sitting side. We are demonstrating, voicing ourselves, but it's not enough to stop what's happening. It's not enough for now. So definitely it's shaking our moral consciousness each day, I guess, for me and for many people around the world. This war shaked the human orders, the world orders, we say.
We're losing our humanity. And I say we, especially as an Israeli. I mean, we as an Israeli, I mean, we're absolutely losing our humanity. Every day.
On behalf of your names, war crimes are done.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, it's definitely very like important subject to talk about it, but I want just to go a little bit also to talk about something similar, but like about the challenges, Rana and Ameera, to be a peace builder, a Palestinian peace builder, or somebody who's working to end the occupation and to advance a solution for the conflict within this context of ongoing occupation, ongoing oppression of the Israeli regime and settler violence, and now after 7th of October and all this escalation. To work in this field really demand commitment and courageous voices, you know. So can you share about the challenges that you are facing as an organization or as a person that working in this field to be a peace builder or peacemaker in this context of the occupation and the conflict, and especially also after the 7th of October?
Yeah, I think like working in this field has always been challenging, even before October 7th, because we are facing our opposing societies. Like what we are doing is not very popular either in Palestine or Israel. We're like choosing the opposite path towards the future, and that's actually not very accepted, like let's say in the Palestinian society.
In the Palestinian, I guess it's more the rejection probably is more than...
I think mostly because living under the occupation and the injustices that we witness, the expansion of settlements, the violence, the house demolishings, all of this overshadow the efforts of our movement, which I basically understand. But for us, as you mentioned, it needs a lot of courage, a lot of commitment, and a lot of patience to actually stay committed to this path forward, because we know once violence happens, you might see like an immediate result, but it's not actually sustainable. But it's in the opposite way. Like when you choose non-violence, it might take a long time, but it's actually more successful, more sustainable for the future. For us, after October 7th, it has been very challenging in the beginning, like to meet in person. For example, we couldn't reach our office here for 2 months because of the roadblocks and the restrictions of movement, especially for Palestinians. There has been an escalation of violence and settler violence, so it wasn't safe to travel around in the West Bank, like from one city to another. And we didn't want to put that risk on our activists and staff. And so we shifted to online meetings in the very beginning. We also created this safe space for our activists, our staff, our international supporters to just come together and share their feelings, their fears, their hopes for the future. And we eventually were able to go back to physical meetings in December 2023, which was very important, and to actually go to the streets and on a joint protest to demand an end to the to the war and demand a ceasefire and a hostage prisoners exchange deal, and to push forward for a political solution. And I think mostly also the challenges is that we're actually have to face the most right-wing Israeli government, the most extremist right now, which also affecting our work in peace building.
And how does it affect your work?
Like creating those kind of divides and hate between the two sides, especially after October 7th, we can feel that there is a huge gap now between the two societies, and everything that is happening is just emphasizing on that hatred and division, which we as peace builders trying to build these bridges between the two communities and build a joint community, which is not easy with all the facts on the ground and everything that is happening around us, the ongoing war and the settler violence. So that also changes the way that we want to, how we want to do our work. And also the division in the world, the polarization that we see, it's also affecting our work, because people are kind of like choosing sides, whether being pro-Israel, pro-Palestine, and it's actually not benefiting us people living in this land, because as we know, this is our homeland that we all see, and Palestinians are not going anywhere, Israelis are not going anywhere, so we just need to find a way to live together. And that's what the world needs to understand and support the peace building efforts. And also the funding, donations from international supporters. After October 7th, there has been some fear, maybe some blocking towards funding these kind of peace efforts. And that also affected our work and to continue our programs, because these kind of projects, they also need funding to be able to run it. And that's what we demand and request from the international society, is to invest in peace and not in the war machinery as we see today.
It's very interesting, Rana, because I guess the voices that you brought as Combatant for Peace, it also bringing human voices to the world, because you are an example of what's possible between Palestinians and Israelis. So you give this example to the world to also to rely on, because you said there are people pro-Palestinian or pro-Israelis, and you bring a voice of human values, principles that of living a shared future and not pluralization or division. And you said to me, Fakhira, we still continue to work after 7th of October, because what you have been building, the principles of peace and activism in peace, it's so strong that 7th of October didn't change your members. No?
Yeah,
you continue to work.
It was actually a test for us people working in peace building, and this is when not in the comfortable times that you stay committed to nonviolence. It's actually when you are hit to the core, like that this is the test, is to stay committed when you are faced with so much violence, is to stay committed to non-violence. So that was actually the test for all of us working in peace building.
You know, I'm just thinking about something that Becca told us. We interviewed Becca. She's from Becca. She has an Instagram account called Becca Explains the Occupation.
Yeah,
you know Becca. So one of the things that she was saying in her interview with us is that she finds that the extremism outside of the region makes things harder sometimes. That sometimes, you know, people who are not connected, you know, will say very, very extreme things that, you know, make it harder to do the peace work. So for instance, you know, in Columbia University, there was the student union, the student groups that were saying, oh, all Zionists deserve to die, right? Things like that. And so like extreme statements like that, you know, which basically like 8 million of us sort of should all just die, you know, and it's like that doesn't help. Do you know what I mean? Those kinds of things.
The statements of zero-sum game of this conflict, but you are saying to us, no, there is another way of sharing this homeland and having a narrative that we can be together in this homeland with dignity and freedom and equality. And you are like you are an example of what's possible between Palestinian and Israelis, that outside people do not see it, or give slogans that without responsibility sometimes of really like seeing the future of Palestinian and Israeli, just of killing each other and zero-sum game, which is impacting us because this is not the future that we want to live toward.
Right.
Yeah. Ameera, will go back a little bit because you are also bringing the challenges of Palestinian girls to join this important program after the 7th of October. So can you talk about these challenges, like to recruit women, while this is important and some of them maybe wants to be part of this program. So what's the challenges that?
As Rana mentioned beautifully, this challenges is not new. We had all the challenges before October 7, but now with a great level. So one of the most challenges that we have as a Palestinian woman joining the peacebuilding is the anti-normalization movement of shaming us, of disagree with our approach, even without looking to what is our vision, what is our mission. We speak the same language. We are talking about ending the occupation in tomorrow's women, for example. We are talking about self-determination and all of these principles, what is the anti-normalization movement wants. But they are not listening or speaking to us. They immediately attack us by taking our picture to the social media at, what happens, which is ugly. So always the Palestinian girls are afraid of that, and because of that we protect them, of course, with our policy, with do no harm. We protect their identity, no photos. So we overcome that. They come, they meet, they think together as partners to make a difference in their reality. A second challenge that Rana also mentioned, the restriction of movement, plus the Israeli government preventing issue permit, physical permit for us. For me to go to meet my colleagues, to meet my alumni, I have to go sometimes to Jerusalem. And since October 7, my permit was cancelled. I can't go to Jerusalem. So all these challenges and obstacles, also the Israeli government responsible to prevent us from meeting. That's why we are today in Area C, which is the only area for Palestinians and Israelis. No one needs the permit to come.
I want to talk about another challenge that we had this conversation, if you want to mention it, Rana, Ameera, is the issue that some of the women, Palestinian women, are saying that I don't want to meet with Israeli women that she serves in the army, right, or she supports, because it will be hard for me as Palestinian woman to meet a Israeli woman today that she serves in the army and support the genocidal war. Do you want to have some, to talk about it?
Yes.
Because this is very now challenge, I guess, for most of the Palestinians, that they are putting now a condition. If I will meet with Israeli, I need to know that they are not supporting the war, or their family are not part of of the genocide war.
Yes, Fakhira, it's not easy for Palestinian women to join peace-building programs, especially when there is genocide going on in Gaza. When we just switch our phones and we see the killing, all the massive killing for innocent people, the Palestinian women reaching out to me, and when I recruit them and they say, I can't. They are telling me I can't meet Israelis, and knowing that their friends, their brothers are the one killing our people in Gaza. So this is how hard it is. They are telling me we are not going to meet until this war will end. Besides all of that, there is no one in Palestine can hear a justification for this war. Violence cannot be justified. Killing cannot be justified. Right. So they are telling me I can't sit in a room with Israeli woman when she will try to explain for me why this war is ongoing in Gaza. This is how hard it is for the Palestinian physically to sit in a room and to have a simple dialogue like this. It's not simple. It's painful dialogue.
Right.
Elana, do you want to say something before we?
No, it's okay. I understand. I understand
It's not
that.
easy. I mean, for Israeli women also to hear
Look,
this,
you know,
this pain.
But I understand. Look, to be fair, I've heard that, you know, we had another interview with a woman from the Gaza Rim who on October 7th, you know, she was attacked, and a lot of her friends were attacked and kidnapped and killed. And so when we interviewed her, she basically was not able to sit with Palestinians either, basically. She kind of said the same thing. Now, I understand her because for her, October 7th is still very real for her. She's not in her house. She lost people, you know. So there's trauma. I understand. But, you know, I also understand saying, like, this is happening, you know, right now. We need to end this. I can't sit with someone who's... So,
Yeah.
I mean, we have to end the war.
Yeah,
The war has to end, like, right now. And so...
And if you heard me, I said violence cannot be justified in both sides. I didn't mean the war or one side. Both sides. Yani me personally, I can't justify it. I can't sit in a room with someone, justify it for X reasons.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, by the way.
Yeah.
No, I really appreciate that. I feel sometimes like that has to be said out loud, you know.
To be said loud by Palestinians and Israelis that we are against of what happens in the 7th of October, and we are against what's happening in Gaza now. We are against violence because it will not bring for us freedom, equality, and dignity for both sides, and security.
Yeah. And I also want to just say, as myself personally, the war is not justifiable. It's not justifiable at all, and I've been saying it from the beginning, you know, and you know, just so you understand, like, that's where I'm coming from also.
It's the shared principles that women can bring to the table if they unite together in one voice, Palestinian and Israeli women. But I want just to say from my place about the anti-normalization discourse, because just to say, to add something, because it's one of the discourses that challenge the Palestinian that are engaged in peace building. But in one side, I know that this is critical and it's a challenge, but we can also understand some of these voices of the anti-normalization, because basically the anti-normalization movement is saying that the peace building field in the 20 years that was mostly focusing on dialogue, and it didn't challenge that much that structural violence. So for the Palestinians, the peace building efforts didn't bring for them a different future. It didn't end the occupation, and they claim that when Palestinians meet with the Israeli, there is a hidden agenda that this meeting meant to normalize the oppression and move Palestinians not to protest and not to resist the occupation. And I can understand these voices because most of the Palestinians continue, like, they see the continuation of the apartheid regime, of the colonial regime, of the Israeli domination, and they don't see the results of these efforts. And for them, these efforts is just normalizing the relationship without bringing Palestinian a change. And because most of these efforts in their argument didn't really tackle the structural violence. But I know that you, Rana, and you, Ameera, your most work is really to actions to challenge the settler violence,
to challenge the system of oppression. So it's about we have seen also like a new phenomena within the Israeli society, the new refuseniks, people refusing to serve in the army, and even reserves refusing to serve in Gaza. So there is a level of awareness about what is happening, that it's actually being trapped in the same cycle of violence, that there are no winners in war. And this is not the way that we will get to a solution. We know that there is no military solution for our conflict. And this is what I feel the level of awareness has been changed recently in the last year. And what we said is that dialogue is important, but at the same time, in this critical moment, action is essential. And we don't just sit and talk about normal things. We're actually trying to come up with strategies to actually co-resist the occupation together, the injustices, the oppression, it's not about normalizing the injustices that we see. It's actually challenging them and working towards changing the reality. And that's the most important thing.
Definitely. It's very important to co-resist together the injustice and to build a just system for both people. And this is really very important message. And it's more powerful when we resist together the oppression. It's sending a message for the oppressor, that we Israelis and also Palestinians, we refuse to be an enemy in circles of violence and oppression. We don't agree for that. Also Israeli, we don't agree. But the voices of the Israelis that reject this oppression is like we don't see them in the circle of violence that's happening. And also the voices of Palestinians, because the dominant narrative is a narrative of killing and dehumanization of the other side. And you are bringing a different narrative. You want to bring a different narrative. We too said that this is our goal as well, to bring a different narrative, to destabilize this narrative of dehumanization and zero-sum game for this conflict and for this relation. And there is a different, another way is possible between the two people.
Yeah, that's why we're doing this. I mean, that is why we're doing this podcast, is because we want to really amplify that voice. You know, amplify the voice that there is another way. There must be another way. It is possible. There are lots of people that doing the work. They're doing very hard work every day to make it possible, and we're just not always hearing it, because also, you know, the Israeli media has its agenda and it's controlled by, you know, the national narrative and all of that, and it's very hard to break through that in Israeli media, and we have to find other ways. We have to find other ways to highlight your important work. I mean, your organizations, both of you are doing it is the most important work, you know, and
yeah. So before we end, I guess we want to have you share with us any insight for hope for in this very dark reality. Rana, what brings you hope?
Actually, the work that we do brings me hope, because I see that as a movement we're actually embodying the future that we want to bring about. We're Palestinians and Israelis working together, laying down our weapons and joining our forces to end the occupation, the oppression, the violence. And that actually brings me hope for a better future, because if we can do it on a smaller scale, then it is possible on a larger scale. And this is what the future can look like, and we can see it today. So it is possible.
Thank you. Beautifully said.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ameera?
Wow. Yani surprisingly, I have a lot of hopes, but I want to pick one, that meeting a woman like you will give me hope that there is Israeli on the other side, just like me. The things that you shared today really touch my heart, that you are not justifying the war. I wish there is more Israeli women will realize that the military is not the solution. Violence will never be the solution. We tried it for years, hundreds of years, and it's taking us nowhere.
Yes. I say that all the time, by the way. I have a Substack, I write blogs, and I'm writing all the time. And I'm constantly saying that we've been trying this one way, this one thing we've been trying since forever, violence, and it hasn't ever worked. It's only made things worse and worse and worse. We've never tried the other way.
This is the time. This is the time to try the other way. This is the time for both mothers, women, in both sides to realize we had to stop this ongoing violence. And what gives me hope, Fakhira, is the examples around the world that women did it. That women, when they are engaged in peace agreement, when they are engaged in negotiation, they achieve peace in their country. Liberia, for example.
Right?
Totally.
Liberia. Also Ireland, for example. They were, women's involvement was very important in Ireland also.
So we will one day women ending war. We are going to be part of it.
Women ending war united and shared principles against violence and for shared future between both people, Palestinians and Israelis.
Amen.
Thank you for these powerful insights, Ameera and Rana. Really, it's very enriching conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Shukran. Really, thank you. Thank you for all your, and thank you for all your beautiful work. And I wish you so much luck, so much success in everything that you're doing. And I'm really so grateful to have, met you and had the opportunity to talk about all this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elana.
Thank you, Fakhira.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to the podcast Women Ending War. I'm Dr. Elana Stockman, and my co-host is Eva Dalak. If you like this, please subscribe, share, like, and comment. Links to our channels on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple are below. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Substack. And please consider supporting us financially. We need your help. Link to our GoFundMe page is below. In peace, salam, and shalom.